Meet Maggie. She is an independent 74-year-old woman who enjoys keeping up a social life and has a strong sense of independence, wanting to maintain control over her life and the decisions that she makes within it. Despite this, her arthritis and hypertension makes it more difficult for her to retain this independence in her home. But this is something that she does not recognise as debilitating, persisting that she does not need any help. Maggie actually reflects the majority of us in older age, as 94% of people are happy with their existing home. However, 28% of English homes are inaccessible and unadaptable. This means that making changes to your house to adapt to your changing needs is almost impossible. To respond to this in a way which helps people like Maggie retain their control over decision making in their lives, we ran some pilots to find out what would help people to explore housing options. Home improvement agencies and services providing home adaptations have the expertise to extend control to people whose home becomes unsuitable for them. And in this case, this project focused around moving on. About 50,000 people over 60 move every year. 40% of them are the tenants of private sector landlords moving to social housing. To help more people move, we must support them to explore their options. So here's what we did. The house builders Taylor Wimpey kindly allowed us to fund We Care Home Improvements in Bristol and Calderdale Council in West Yorkshire to provide tailored advice and support to people early on. In Bristol, the service provided caseworker support. This involved understanding people's circumstances, what they hope to achieve and how much support they might want. The caseworker would then take people to view places, help engage with removal firms, liaise with utilities, organise cleaning and divert subscriptions. If people didn't want to move, the caseworkers simply set out the options and revisited to see whether people have had further thoughts. This would be beneficial to people like Maggie, who may at first be reluctant to engage with their options, but may feel more comfortable after being told what was available. Calderdale Council took a different approach. Its specialist housing options casework support was underpinned by the local choice-based letting system, which helped it identify people wishing to move. It provided advice to 60 people on their relocation list and made disabled facilities grants available to assist with moving costs such as removals, carpets and curtains. Caseworkers were drawn from the council's homelessness prevention service, who helped to complete applications and changing service providers. In both places, the pilots helped about 50 people. In Bristol, of the 48 people referred for casework support, 38 were resolved, with 18 moving, 18 staying put and 2 dying. In Calderdale, half were provided with the DFG to move or adapt, and 12 to 15 were provided with a choice of alternative accommodation through the choice-based letting system. In both places, a housing option service has most success in moving people from their own home into specialist housing for older people, rented and part-owned. Fundamentally, even if the help that we provide is in the form of advice and then not taken any further by people, making them aware of their choices and supporting them to make these decisions is what we believe is the most important takeaway from this scheme. Whilst we recognise that moving on might not be for everyone, the important takeaway from this project is that it is about giving people choice. We'd like to make this service available to everyone, whether they choose to follow it through or not. This may include providing information and advice about the housing options available locally, exploring what hopes people sustain for their later years, finding the professionals needed, whether those are contractors or conveyancing solicitors and estate agents, and personal support through the inevitable disruption. What matters is that people's choices are respected and acted upon. We could all find ourselves in Maggie's position one day, so it's important that we are providing the choices and information early on to ensure that people can make as informed a decision as possible. Whether you choose to stay or choose to go, the whole point is that you make the choice. After taking part in the Move On pilot, Maggie is now living in a lovely extra care development with design features and support services available to enable self-care and independent living. Like Maggie, 12 of the 18 people in Bristol who took part in the Move On pilot moved to extra care or housing with care. Fundamentally, for the developers, providers and managers of specialist housing with care for older people, there are clear commercial drivers to fund independent advice and support. For more information, help or advice on establishing a Move On service, please get in touch with Foundations.